mean, I'm not going to do tours like I used to do, but one, because the last time, as I said, I played was September the 24th, 2019. And that was after doing a 26-date tour in America on over 31 days. And that's the biggest one I've done since the Ungovernable Force years ago. And to be honest with you, it grew a bit. Yeah. It got hard. Because I'm the type of person that every night, if there's one person that's there come to see you, I don't want to let them down. Yeah. It's got to be exactly, it's not a performance, I'm not an actor. Do you know what I mean? There is no game plan. But I need to know that I'm strong enough and fit enough to deliver what I want to say every night. You know, do you get what I mean? So there's no half. So I wouldn't do that again. Possibly 2-week tours at a time. I know we do these festivals. Some people slag us off for them, some people love us for them. We're going to do a lot more festivals, right across the board. I mean, we're doing Woodstock when it comes back on. And we're doing some very big festivals, metal festivals, stuff like that. But I think it's important that we get over to new people. There's no point otherwise, is there? These are really good, actually. They really made a good job of this. James has been really complimentary, over complimentary, I think, but he's amazing at what he writes, and I have utmost respect for him. It's very flattering what he writes, to be honest. It's.
But he spent a lot of time with you talking through the history.
He did. He knew his history and stuff like that, but obviously we spent a lot of time, well, not a lot of time, I think it was only 2 long phone calls, but backwards and forwards, just nailing certain little facts. I mean, certain little facts I can't even remember. I mean, Paco's our drummer, he was a memory man, so, some of it, I can't be more impressed with what he's wrote. I mean, there's so much here. It's like, and I thought he did amazing to get that all together. There was bits that he wrote that I hadn't remembered. There were bits that I said to him that he hadn't obviously remembered. You could not put it all. I mean, that's why I'm writing a book, because you can't put 40 years into that much. Yeah, exactly. So obviously we did the first single on Crash Records, which was House and Man Built, and then we went on to we did a live thing on Poison Girls label. This was our first album. Memories of this was I wanted to spend, which was a lot at the time, making a colour cover. All the artwork on this was done by hand. It was all done by hand by the bass player of Poison Girls. Literally, the whole thing was done. Obviously, it weren't computer things. So we wrote every single lyric by hand. And that was at the same time as Lake and Heath Missile Base was going on, so we used to spend our time between the two. But I mean, my most memory of this was being refused to be able to do a colour cover because it cost too much money, and the fact that he would sit there and put that much effort into writing this. So he basically, all this is real, it's scrunched up paper, and he did it literally on an art pen, every single lyric. I was shocked at how well it did. I've always been shocked at how well Conflict did, because, I don't know, there's much better bands out there than Conflict, but right place, right time, I guess. Increased Pressure came along when this shocked me, how well that did. So then we went away from Crass and made our own label and went to a place called IDS that went bankrupt, unfortunately, halfway through. So this was all our own project, and we only seriously had tracks to do half an album. But I knew we had to do an album, which is a bit of an insult really to people, because you've got 6 tracks, but those 6 tracks worked. Yeah. And this, to me, that sold more. This, I don't know what sold, because IDS went bankrupt, but this to me was a whole new, we'd become of age at this stage. We'd become important. Too important maybe. But yeah, it's 7 Ladies Dead, yeah, that was massive, yeah. This was the one that changed everything, which was, I never understood where that came from, because what you've got to remember at the time, Jungle Records basically fronted us a lot all through this period, from there onwards, from Increase the Pressure, all the singles was fronted by Jungle Records, and they'd done really well. There's a guy called Steve Brown, Alan Hauser, and Graham. They backed us a lot. So at this time, we was booked to go in and do this album, and I was booked into Rockfield, Rockfield, the proper studio, and I think it cost 14 grand for 2 weeks right back then. But I lied to Jungle all the way through and said, yeah, it's ready, it's ready. We didn't have a note, we didn't have a tune, we didn't have a lyric. But the problem is that once this kicked off with Increase the Pressure, I hate to say we were real. We was out there doing the miners' strike, we was out there doing the print works factories things, you know what I mean? We didn't have time to write records. Yeah. All of a sudden we've become part of that, and we was out there every day doing it for real. So we'd have time to write albums. So anyway, when we went there, we went to Rockfield, we didn't have a note, we didn't have a lyric. The engineer sat down and he said, what do you want to do? I went, could you come back in a few days? I'll never forget his face. He went, really? I went, yeah. I mean, you live in here, it was 14 grand then, do you know what I mean?
But you got it together,
Well, it's the best selling album we've ever had. I don't know how, but again, because it's real, all I did was wrote that as it felt.
Exactly.
We was in there, we got locked in, we got away from everything, we was away from all the struggles that was going on. We didn't have all the internet then, you know what I mean? But for that to sell what it sold, I mean, from Morrissey, you turn around and say, he's got a lot of time for me over an Animal thing, but he hates conflict because it kept him up from never having a #1 album. And you got the Smiths, Queen is Dead on Rough Trade, and us, put that out, kept him off the top for 8 weeks. Yes. We couldn't believe it. We could not believe it, and it still, as Adam would tell you, it still outsells things. I don't get it.
Well,
but it was real. I think it's because it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we had the battles of Stonehenge going on, they were all on there and stuff like that, you know. But
it shows you
it's flattering.
That kind of height you power.
I think it's because it was just, you know, you didn't know what we'd unleash with that, let alone this, and then that was just, I don't know, not on a pedestal, because we were still really, obviously, still am angry, but it was just surprising. Yeah. One, how good it came out, and two, how good, but it was just a natural feeling, you know, when you just got that, and people have said, oh, it's a concept album. I won't call it a concept album, I think it's a real album of what happened at the time. So, this was recorded when we first went to America, I think it was 1987. We was invited over to play a big festival, I think it was Nagasaki Nightmare Festival, which we ended up being second on the bill to DOA. There was like, we'd played to 400 people, 500, 600 people, I don't know. Before we got there and we drove into this hall, and I know what we're in a car park. I went, no, this is the arena you're playing in. And I was like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, I don't know, 15, 20,000 people there, and we were second on the bill. We was angry from London. Do I think we stole it? I think we stole it, yeah. I think Darrow would agree with that. And that kind of set the pace for us in America. I wrote that about a band that wrote Only Stupid Bastards Use Heroin, New Model Army. We've since got it together. They wrote Only Stupid Bastards Use Heroin. I wrote Only Stupid Bastards Help EMI, because EMI used to fund everything that they were singing against. The arms race, apartheid, particularly apartheid. You can't sing against that and let your money fund it. That was me in the time. That was me in the time. We've since spoken. They actually wrote, I believe they wrote a track that actually retracted it. And I also I'm not putting anyone down, but I don't like people that say, I believe in vengeance, I believe in getting fascist, if you don't fucking go and do it. I'm sorry, I just don't. Either do it or don't sing about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And Brixton Academy. Yeah. So this was one big con, really. I stole a bit of paper from Rough Trade, made it I worked for Rough Trade, and I hired Brixton Academy from Johnny Parks. It's in his book. So basically I said I was going to put on this punk show and stuff like that, and yeah, it's going to be good, and it was good. We did. It was £2.50 to get in. I arranged coaches from all over the place. Steve Ignorant from Crash, I'm still best mates with, got involved, and it kicked off. And it kicked off big time. It was just incredible. Don't get me wrong, it was an amazing concert. At the time after it, when it went ridiculously skywards, I was like broken, and I thought, do you know what, that couldn't have ended any better, because it was just the biggest underground punk concert festival ever. You know, how could it have ended? You know? Yeah, but obviously charges followed and stuff like that, and you get asked the question. But it was, I was shocked how big it could be. But to me, it was, yeah, as I say, for a long time, I was thinking, you know, what do you do now? And it was just, we did it for, not a joke, but we did it just to prove we could do it. But yeah, I think he wrote in his book, yeah, you know, how, and he said he would have done Conflict anyway. And I heard a BBC radio interview with him a few years ago, and he said, best concert ever at Brixton Academy. He went, New Order. Worst, he went, disgusting outfit called Conflict that made the Sex Pistols sound like the Wombles. And I thought, yeah, I love that. And everyone went, are you offended? I went, that is me. Now I know I'm winning. But it wasn't intentional that it kicked off. It was just, there was history with show set security. I mean, they brought dogs on stage to get us off in the end, but you see on the back covers, you know. And it was just, it was too big for us, to be honest. I mean, when I went there to actually book it in the daytime, Style Council rehearsing there, you know, you're thinking, bit of millennia. But it was, but to see all the police on the left-hand side of a balcony watching you and filming you, showing films about them beating people at the Stonehenge, I was like, this is getting messy. So I went back in a few days later, and they dropped charges, but yeah, I had to go and meet them. And they were on about incitement, this, that and the other, but they knew what they was doing. They knew exactly what they was doing. So basically after Brixton Academy, when I got together with Steve and we did that, Steve had decided he wanted to do something more than Crass. So that's when Steve joined Conflict. And we decided we was going to do an album together, which this one, we went off to a place, what's it called, The Lodge, I think it was in Suffolk, owned by a band called The Enid, I believe. I don't know if you heard of them or whatever. So we went in to do this. Me and Steve we'd never sat down and wrote properly together. Again, we only had a couple of tunes and stuff like that, but in the session that we was in, we also came out with that. It wasn't intentional. Wasn't intentional to do 2 albums. We just had material and we just kept going, and within that time period that was in there, I often think that if you're fortunate enough, and I've been fortunate enough to be in lock-in situations where you live there, you come up with really good stuff. And obviously me and Steve, I don't think there's anyone better than him, to be honest with you. You know, he brought out the best in me. Well, he didn't create me, my mother did, but you get what I mean? It was like, he was the, obviously we're like, so basically going back to the start, obviously, you know, I was in sort of Pistols and I toured with the Clash. At the same time I met Steve, got into Crass and stuff like that. He was like, the Clash kind of put me on the level of not how to feel, opened my eyes. Steve showed me, you can also do this, everyone can do this. It's not about people up there. And that just rubbed off, and I think it's represented really great on these albums. Can I just mention that there's a guy called Mark Pickstone, which from Final Conflict onwards, he was the one that booked there, has been inspirational and creative all through Conflict until date now. His name's Mark Pickstone, yeah. He's a good friend of mine and Steve's, yeah. This was done at Alaska Studios in London. It was a time that I had enough. Had enough, really. As I said, there was a time when I didn't want to do concerts anymore, to lots of people that all agreed. We weren't getting any further, nothing was going forward. I got into the acid house scene big time, so I started promoting parties on the M25, free parties at the stage. And the reason I like that is because it wasn't a revival, it was new, it was fresh, and it was giving the police to run about. But I didn't like actually appearing in Conflict or playing in Conflict anymore. I believed it was the same thing right across the board. So I wasn't as involved in the production of this, but as I say, Mark Pickstone I like it. I think it's some of the best lyrics on the road. But as far as being as fierce as the other albums, there's a lot more keyboard stuff on it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's probably the deepest stuff I've wrote, but not the angriest. I like it. I do like it, but to me that was going to be the way out.
Yeah.
I was going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why it sounds that way. So the reason this got re-recorded is because I tried to get the rights to my album back from Southern Records, some shit. It was Crash Records, I think. No, Corpus Christi, same thing. They wouldn't release it. At the time there was a guy called John Loader. I had a lot of respect for. He's now dead, unfortunately. But so I just thought, well, you know what, I'm just going to record it in there. So with the help of Derek, who owns One Little Independent now, we went to a place called Berry Street and he did it for us for nothing and we recorded it and put it out. But I just wanted to have my own catalogue. We left it on Crass as well, but I just wanted to, you know, have it in my control as such. And so that was it, and it went really well. Personally, I like that one better. But we was early doors with the first one.
Yeah.
We got There's No Power Without Control, which was the last album we did. I want to re-release that just before we do the new one with you. And I think he's agreed to that, so you'll have to talk to him about that. But I've done video tracks for each single one of those that I've made myself. MTV wanted to do one of them and I refused that. Just don't want to do it. But yeah, so I would like that to be released properly. And then of course the new album, This Much Remains, which, if I'm the bad apple, this is going to upset the cart. I promise you that.